Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our Chapter 1 video lecture on taking risks and making profits within the dynamic business environment. So you ready? Let's go. These are the contents we're going to cover in Chapter 1. We'll focus on business and wealth building, the importance of entrepreneurs to the creation of wealth, the business environment, and the evolution of the U.S. business environment. So the term business is used a lot. What is business? It refers to any activity that seeks to provide goods and services to others while operating at a profit. Typically, there are two main categories of transaction, either providing goods or services. So with the goods, it means you're providing a tangible product such as computer, food, clothing, cars, appliances, etc. Compared to with a service, it is an intangible project. For example, right now, you're signed up for this course. Education is an intangible service. Example also would be healthcare, recreation, travel, getting your car fixed, examples of different types of services. Now, how do I become successful in business? You become successful by filling a need identified by the market. So we're asking ourselves, what needs do we see within a certain market? And can I fulfill that need and make money while doing it? If so, you may decide to become an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person who risks time and money to start and manage their own business. Question: refer to the total amount of money a business takes in during a given period. Is the correct response A, B, C, or D? I'll give you a minute or a few seconds. If you said letter C, then you are correct. Revenue refers to the total amount of money a business takes in during a given period by either selling goods or providing a service, or it could be a combination of those two. Now, do me a favor. Think about your current employer, or if applicable, a previous employer. How does your employer earn revenue? They either sell goods or provide services, or it could be a combination of the two. Now, often people confuse revenue with profit. The profit is the amount of money a business earns above and beyond what is spent for salaries and other expenses, meaning that once all the revenue has come in, how much money do we spend on rent, paying employees, taxes, insurance, supplies, etc. Whatever you have remaining after all those expenses, that's known as your profit. Now, a company may not have a profit, they may have what's known as a loss. A loss takes place when the business expenses are more than its revenue. So that's not what you want, but on occasion, companies do have a loss, and they can ask when the business expenses exceed the amount of revenue for that business. Now, when you are running your own business, you have to be able to manage the amount of risk tied into being an entrepreneur. So the risk is the chance an entrepreneur takes of losing time and money on a business that may not prove profitable. As we showed the slide before, sometimes companies do have a loss, meaning the amount of revenue that came in is less than the amount of expenses. After all, Not all enterprises make the same amount of profit. Some companies are quite successful, while others are not. Typically, the bigger the risk, the bigger the potential profit going to be for that business organization. Standard of living, quality of life is very important. The standard of living is the amount of goods and services people can buy with the money that they have. So your standard of living is predicated often on your ability to purchase goods and services. The U.S. has one of the highest standards of living in the world. However, workers in other countries often make more money than the United States. These are more developed countries. But because prices are higher for their products or services, their standard of living is not as high as it is here in the United States of America. Hmm. What about quality of life? Well, the quality of life focuses on the well being of a society in terms of political freedom, natural environment, education, health care, safety, amount of leisure, and rewards that add to the satisfaction and joy that others goods and services provide. So, quality of life is different than your standard of life, right? So, you may have a lot of material items, but if you don't have good health, if you don't have a good work life balance, if you will, if you don't enjoy yourself, if you're not enjoying life, then those standard of living, those material things, doesn't seem to be as important. So you want to really have a high standard of life, but more important is to have a good quality of life, meaning that you're enjoying life. So high quality life requires combined efforts of businesses, nonprofit organizations we talk more about, as well as government agencies. So again, having health insurance coverage, feeling that you are safe, being able to have some fun in your life, those factors all lead to your quality of life. Okay? Now, every business has what's known as stakeholders. Stakeholders are all the people who stand to gain or lose by the policies and activities of a business and whose concerns the business needs to address. So, a challenge as a business owner is to recognize and respond to the needs of your stakeholders. So, here's a list of the different type of stakeholder that a company may have. We won't go through all of these, but in terms of corporations, the stockholders are stakeholders, your customers are your stakeholders, the bankers that you borrow money from, your stakeholders, your employees. So again, these are the typical type of stakeholders you're going to have if you are a U.S. based business. Sound familiar to you? Okay, great. So again, your job as a business owner is to respond to the various needs of the stakeholders. So making sure your employees are satisfied, your customers feel that your product or service is of top quality, making sure your obligation to the bank that you borrow money from is being taken care of. Sometimes we have to outsource work to be done. Outsourcing means contracting with other companies to do some functions of a firm. For example, if you were to start your own business, become an entrepreneur, what type of business would you start? Okay. So maybe say, well, I want to start a marketing firm. Okay, great. Well, you may need to hire someone like myself to do accounting work for your marketing firm. So when there are certain functions that are outsourced to another company, that is known as outsourcing. Interesting, many foreign companies are opening offices and factories in the United States. That is known as insourcing. So when other companies from foreign companies are here in the United States, that's what we call insourcing. Okay? So what we talked about so far is a for-profit organization. We'll now switch to what's known as a nonprofit organization. This is an organization whose goal does not include making a personal profit for its owners or organizers. Instead, its purpose is to provide some type of service to the general public in terms of social or some type of educational goals. For example, the Red Cross is a non-profit organization that provides service to over 30 million people on an annual basis, whether those are educational services, some type of social services. Their goal is not to make a profit, but to provide a quality service to those they consider to be their stakeholders. There are positives to being an entrepreneur, working for yourself, such as freedom to succeed, making your own decisions, possible wealth. But there's also some negative factors too. The freedom to fail, no paid vacations. Typically, when you're an entrepreneur, you are going to work long hours in order to run your own business. You and often you don't have health insurance through your company. However, you can receive health insurance from other companies. Okay? Now, entrepreneurs are extremely important in order to create wealth in any company. So, a country requires more than just natural resources. It is the efforts of those who decide to become entrepreneurs. And often those companies grow to large corporations, whether we're talking about a Microsoft, an Amazon, an Apple, more recently with an Uber or Lyft, etc. These organizations often started as entrepreneurs and then over time became much larger corporations. Women in the workforce. This graph is showing a chart. The dark blue numbers are from the year 1970. The lighter blue numbers are from 2020. So what you can see is by this graph is that women have played a much viable role in the business world since in the more recent time. So you see a higher percent of women now in the workplace. More women are college graduate. Women earn more than their husbands. That's higher. Contribute to the household income, 36%. So we see that women definitely have played a more viable role in the workforce in 2020 compared to what it was in 1970. Okay? The 5 factors of production. These are the resources used to create wealth. Those resources are land or natural resources, labor, workers, capital, entrepreneurship, as well as knowledge. And make note that what makes rich countries rich today is entrepreneurship and knowledge are the main 2 of those 5 factors that help companies to become successful. Okay. Next slide is on the business environment. These are the surrounding factors that either help or hinder the development of a business. And we'll look at 5 elements: economic and legal environment, technological environment, comparative environment, social environment, global, and business environment. Okay, you ready to discuss these 5 elements? Great. Well, stay tuned for part 2 of our chapter 1 business lecture.